I'd have to survey all the local farmers, the dairy farmers, and I don't have time to do that in 6 weeks. I don't know if it's all that necessary to do. Somehow you know that the milk that's being produced here is being trucked south to the manufacturers somehow.
It's through the cooperatives.
Yeah, so let's get it here. And that was the thrust of the earlier report. Let's get a food line, a product line, that's a cooperatively based product line here. Just like Ocean Spray produces is a cooperatively owned cranberry company. We could be St. Lawrence yogurt, St. Lawrence Greek yogurt. Why not? Create a company. So those things can be done, but again, when we talked about these in the last go-around, it was a whole plethora of industries that we're talking about. Now we have a couple of product lines that I'd love to be able to concentrate on, and I think you can do that. I don't know how long this wave can be ridden. You've got a window of a year, a couple of years, and then this product line, I think, is going to spread out across the country. I don't see why New York State would own it. I really don't. It's expensive to do anything here. So if you can figure out a way to keep this industry in the state by incentivizing it, then that's the answer. New York area is the major consumer of this product at the moment, but obviously the whole country is catching on to it. So there's, the West Coast is not going to look for a product coming out of the East Coast. They're going to be doing it out of the West Coast. The South will be doing the same. There's not a lot of Greek yogurt consumption in the South, but I think there will be more. In Canada, 1/9 the population, but it's still a strong marketplace. You'll see that the Canadians eat 30% more yogurt than we do, generally. In Europe, they eat 60% more than we do. Okay, so the answer is yes. I'd love to be involved with getting this message out to the right folks. But then you have to figure out a way to get them up here and show them properties.
The state has an individual who's tasked with agriculture and agribusiness economic development.
Yeah.
It's Pat Hooker. He would be somebody who we might want to engage with as far as having contacts with virtually all the companies that you've listed.
Is that ESD?
Yeah.
The other report that we kind of stopped because we wanted to get this one done is it's called International Headquarters and Business Logistics. And that is not trying to attract a producer necessarily, but just a wide-ranging approach to Canadian headquarters being here and U.S. distribution looking north. A lot of the stuff that came out of this report we're going to reuse for the other report. And once these are done, and if we do more of them, then you'll have a little library of these reports that you can distribute. So the idea is to get the names of the executives, get these reports out there, and then who follows up is the question. You guys have to follow up realistically. You got to get them here.
I have a question for you regarding the yogurt output and the milk demand and in relation to the map on page 6. Number 17, there's the Upstate Niagara Cooperative. How does this type of facility, I guess my question is, does it bolster the overall case for siting a facility in this area? Or is it the facility in Ogdensburg, what am I trying to say? Is it a net gain or a net loss? In other words, a Greek yogurt facility in Ogdensburg, does the one in North Lawrence go out of business? I mean, they're two different product lines competing.
I don't know if, I'm not sure if these guys produce a Greek yogurt line. I don't think so. I think
They do.
They do?
They're just started.
Cornell produces yogurt? Cornell University produces yogurt? I didn't know Cornell makes its own yogurt. All right, well, most of the time companies like to be in places where their competition hasn't saturated the market, but are there.
Yeah, Wade, I think the answer to that is through the cooperatives. You'd want to talk with Agrimark, you'd want to talk with Upstate Niagara, because the issue about the milk supply is key.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a concern when these guys restarted this facility. Where's the milk going to come from?
Yeah,
because you're exactly right, there's a lot of milk being shipped south right now.
Right.
So the less far it has to go, the better for the producers, for the farmers, because obviously their cost of transport is lessened. But I think that's
the key. As long as the productive capacity of the milk supply grows, it's a win-win in both cases.
There's three players.
But if it stays static.
Yeah, there's the companies, there's the cooperatives in between, and then there's the producers or the farmers, and I think you couldn't approach this without dealing with all three legs of the stool.
That is exactly right, Pat, and I think what you need to do is have that little, we talked about this on the last go-around, these little industry meetings, to get the industry leaders together and say, what do you need to do to get your product more marketable, more concise, or more packaged properly, or advertised properly, all the other stuff. One of the things I'm a little concerned about is that, and this goes to corn and ethanol. These guys, before Greek yogurt came along, were producing this milk. They didn't produce this milk for the Greek yogurt industry. This milk was going south to places up north where people were consuming milk. Now you're asking these farmers to turn around and put out a lot more milk specifically for the Greek yogurt industry, if this demand curve is going to grow. So I don't know where the consumption of this milk that would normally be going to the grocery stores is going to come from. A lot of it's going to be shipped to these plants. You're talking about a huge volume, and they're talking about at least a 90,000 cow increase in New York State alone, just for the yogurt. So I don't know if this is going to impact our normal milk prices. In the West, in the Midwest, where we're growing corn for ethanol, corn prices are out of sight. You can't buy corn to feed your animals, because you're selling it to the United States government to produce methanol. So ethanol rather. So I don't know what this will do to this industry, and I think it's important that and I asked for a copy of the report that was produced for the yogurt summit, the Cuomo's Yogurt Summit, and I never got it, to say whether or not there was any long-term demand issues on milk, just milk consumables and milk prices. If New York State follows the Canadian method, and that is some kind of super agency regulation, in Canada you sell your milk to the United States, to the Canadian government. The Canadian government then turns around and sells it to the manufacturers. So there's a huge middleman, and that's why there's a 79% differential in cost between Quebec and New York State at the moment in milk.
I gotta go, but let me leave you with a couple of ideas or a couple of thoughts. One is, when I was at the North Lawrence plant, one of the things that was interesting to me was the fruit filling.
Yeah,
comes in
that's a
these
good
big
question.
totes,
Yeah.
came from Ontario.
Right.
So we have an advantage.
Yeah, and that's a big deal, because
Yep.
where's all the fruit coming
There's
from?
so
Where's all the paper coming from for the
not just
product and stuff?
specifically the fruit, but yeah, the ingredients in general.
Yeah.
The plastic cups
Yeah.
that it's packaged in come from Toronto. The lids come from Quebec.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're right in between. So that's part of the selling proposition potentially, but it also might speak to maybe a support industry
Yeah, this is a
for
cluster
the
opportunity.
yogurt. You know, maybe somebody makes plastic cups here. Maybe
Sure.
they may.
The steel tanks
Yeah.
for all this stuff, the washing of all those tanks, all the truckers, and all the things I've involved in all that.
Yep.
Yeah, it's
Anything
a wonderful
else before
cluster.
One thing I'd like to say, and that is that there is a lot of milk produced in St. Lawrence County, and the wealth generation that could go with manufacturing into something else is trucked right out of St. Lawrence County.
Yeah.
And that's not right.
Right.
And I know that there's opportunities, there's land all over the county that's not being used. I know it's pretty hot commodity in this section of the county, but there's opportunities to produce more milk
Yeah.
in St. Lawrence County. We used to be the #1 county in milk production 20 years ago, and we could be.
Okay, good.
Yeah, no doubt.
Okay.
Thanks, Pat.
Anything else?
Thank you, Patrick. Thanks for coming, and I would mention that I appreciate the fact that you worked so closely with John, OBPA, to promote the area and what we're looking to do, and whatever we can do in the future, we'd be happy to do that.
Thank you very much. Happy to come here. Good seeing everybody. Take care, Tim. Nice seeing you. Steve. I'm trying to get my leaves picked up, Steve, so they don't all wind up on your lawn.
I'm waiting for a south wind so I can blow them to your lawn.
Yeah, well,
It doesn't happen
they all
without.
seem to blow whatever leaves direction they go toward me. Thank you. It's just nice to see you.
There we go, we're all set.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. We'll resume the meeting now that Mr. Kelly has had to excuse himself for other business, and appreciate his information and hearing all the different ways that we're cooperating, and hopefully be able to move on to develop some other industry in the area. I guess we're going to get back to discussion on number one, the Greek yogurt industry prospectus, or are we ready to move on to number
We
two?
started with
Bruce, do you have anything to add regarding the Greek yogurt prospectus before you talk about the logistics?
No, I just hope that we did a good job on this, but if there are issues that you feel that are more germane to promoting the city of Ogdensburg and your properties more than the county, writing this, there's no way to lead by saying the city of Ogdensburg or the OBPA properties per se are the absolute right decision for any manufacturer to initially to think about it. We had to start by looking at the St. Lawrence County opportunities and potential. If we're all in agreement with that direction, then this report is almost ready to go. But if it's a question of why aren't you pushing the Ogdensburg Port, Bridge and Port Authority properties first and then talking about St. Lawrence County, I don't think that makes sense. So that's my take on this.
repeat that again, could I kind of grasp that thought?
Yeah, I want to make certain that you agree that I have to examine St. Lawrence County versus the other counties and the milk production or the manufacturing capability being here, and then say why the city of Ogdensburg is the right location in St. Lawrence
Okay,
County.
all right.
But if to just try to push Ogdensburg, especially the OBPA properties, Commerce Park or the Heavy Industry Park first, I think that's gonna turn off any reader of this, executive reader of this immediately.
It's gonna sound more like a sales pitch as
Yeah,
opposed to.
and I would almost rather this had said competitive advantages of St. Lawrence County, but we obviously are not, with the IDA having been here, we're not trying to push SLC. We're trying to make the advantage of your authority's properties key. But I think it's important that someone immediately knows that we're talking about the North Country or Ogdensburg to begin with. So it's really a question of this report going to the right executive in the right time and saying, I've thought about taking my product line up a notch, and I really like to know more about the production capabilities in New York State, and you have a great location in New York State for me to be. And so this report immediately goes to that person, so that your cover letter has to almost say that. We know you're already in this product line. Greek yogurt is the next advance for you. We know you're probably already thinking about this. When you're starting to think about site location, let's at least start talking about Ogdensburg immediately. Unfortunately, that won't carry as much weight as I think saying, let's talk about St. Lawrence County first.
I would say
In
St. Lawrence County.
We have these potential sites.
I would say.
But you can't say Messina, that's the problem. You can't say, I mean, you can't even let Messina in the conversation. It doesn't do you any good if they go to Messina.
Well, on a technical basis, where this site would be, it's actually town of Lisbon. It's not in Ogdensburg, so I think St. Lawrence County would be more appropriate.
St. Lawrence County would be more appropriate.
Because the Wagner Road industrial site sits in the town of Lisbon.
Not even in Ogdensburg.
It's not even in Ogdensburg.
We could call it Greater Ogdensburg, we could come up with something else.
I think the greater Ogdensburg is a good thing. I think Ogdensburg is a key factor.
Or the Ogdensburg
Northeast,
area or something.
Ogdensburg area, vicinity, those type of,
How about instead of in, near?
what's that, Fred?
Instead of the word in, change
Yeah.
that word to near,
Near.
Yeah.
near Ogden.
I just wanna,
Well, I think the initiative, it still needs to be addressed through the Ogdensburg Bridge and Port Authority, because we're the investor, we're the stakeholders of the
course.
property, whatever, I mean, so,
It's our product.
I know we're on camera, but so regional commitment, what we need to do is an issue, but I think our primary resource is ourselves, we're promoting ourselves to this area. Now, would I turn down if they're gonna be 10 miles away from here, and even though we promoted the initiative? I don't think so. I think we all know that this authority needs to invest regionally as well as locally, and that's, maybe we're not the winner on this one, if that happened, but this area needs to win, so, that being said, I mean, the property is our, we call it, our investment to the area. And I think
Well,
that's
well,
what.
the thing is that if a manufacturer comes along and says, all right, I don't want to be in one of your properties, but I do want to be generally around here.
Well, that's what happens here. I mean,
It's gonna be good for the port, obviously.
Well, that's what I say too, and I think we said from the beginning that our number one hope would be here, but if it were somewhere else and then the port gains business, then that
It's still a win.
is still to our advantage. But frankly, we need to think a little wider than just the Bridge and Port Authority. We're looking to really support the whole county, but more than the county. One of the things that came to my mind, okay, we're the third largest, we're 1 and 2.
Wyoming and Tennessee, I think.
Wyoming and,
Tioga, really. Tioga's number 2, Wyoming's number 1.
well, let's just look at the map.
Yeah. And so.
We have room for expansion in
They
St. Lawrence
don't.
County.
And if you look at
But look at the
8,
counties next to us.
Yeah,
Look at the whole area next to us, and, you know, I think most of us know that many of them are farming counties too, that have room for growth.
yeah,
Well, where's their milk going? It's going south. What stops it from going north, you know?
sure.
And once you get into the competitive market.
Yeah, if you look what happened here is the small farmer didn't have a way to sell his milk. And the cost went up, whatever, and the cooperative went, I'm not sure exactly, I don't know nothing about the cooperative, whatever, but I remember some people talking years back, whatever, is our milk prices didn't match up what it cost to produce the milk. And, once that price, okay, you're out of business.
Right.
You're out of business. The little guy couldn't, they got subsidy type of monies, but they still they couldn't do it, whatever. Now, obviously, the land is here, some of the infrastructure, some farms are still here that, I don't say they could be turned around into farms real quickly, whatever, but people would know that there's a guarantee for their product. And the cows, there's people here would probably go back into that business again,
Yeah.
very quickly, very
Yeah.
quickly.
We want them to expand that herd,
Yeah.
or the stock if they can.
Yeah.
You also want them to be more efficient with their production of that milk. Now, the guys, the small farmers and some, certainly the Pennsylvania Dutch folks, let's call them, they are not milking the cows as often as the large industrial cow. They're not feeding them, whatever the amount of milk that comes out of the cow, why the amount of milk per cow would change so dramatically. We're about 12th on the list of capability. If we got that better, maybe through I don't know exactly how that's done, because I'm not a farmer, but to be able to get those dairies to produce more milk per cow, at least to be at parity with Wyoming or Cayuga County, and increasing our stock, we are right back to number 1 easily, or at least a very close second. Now, how does that not be attractive to a manufacturer to say, right here is everywhere else you want to be in close vicinity, proximity to the source of production. So we're right here, it's easy to do.
Tell me, is this a hot list right now of, companies right now ready to look somewhere else, or are we just kind of guessing that something may be happening?
Only because Alpina and those guys are in play, and there's a lot, and the PepsiCo plant is having a hell of a lot of trouble, it looks like, getting a lot of permits. It seems because the governor is so behind this, and that these other industries, I don't care if the governor is behind it. If PepsiCo is investing $100 million, $150 million here, there's got to be a damn good reason. They don't fool around. So it's the old McDonald's philosophy. Burger King always went where they didn't do any site selection. They followed wherever McDonald's was, and they went across the street. Saved them a lot of money on market analysis,
Sure.
and it was easy. The idea is that you can't over-penetrate a market, but you can follow your competition. So you don't want, to answer your question way before, it's good that New York Cooperative is close by to us at North Lawrence, because that's at least somebody's here and recognizes the capability of producing that product.
Mm-hmm.
So now we have to say, why aren't you here? This is a wonderful location. Why aren't you? Come up and take a look. And that means going to the food marketer somewhere down in the New York area or wherever they are and saying, get your people up here. We'll host them. Let's get a tour, a familiarization tour of the dairy farm area.
Well, let me go back to my original question. Is there a hot list of corporation companies, whatever you wanna call them, that are right now looking out to find some location where they wanna go, and how would we find that? Okay.
Well, I have a list of,
Well,
it's
I'm
not
just saying this, I
complete.
mean, so in
Yeah.
other words, we go, we're ready to roll, we got the land, and then that's, you know, I guess we gotta figure out where the supply's gonna come from. Some
Right.
things are our responsibility, but, you know, so, I mean, that's, I don't wanna be some of those, there's one company out there, whoever is ready to make an investment, and all of a sudden we're out of the mix.
Only because there's at least 50 companies that I know of that are producing yogurt. A lot of them produce a Greek product line.
Mhm.
We're interested in a Greek product line because it uses so much milk. If it's just yogurt, that's good too. But Greek yogurt, first of all, is a big growth area, and it consumes so much more milk, which is so many more jobs, which is so much more feed, which is so much more land use, et cetera. There has to be a hot list of companies. I don't have it on top. I have a list of companies that
Yeah,
I'm
sure,
looking at
sure.
right now. But I don't have it, you know, say that John Smith over there or Barbara Jones, or, you know, called me yesterday and said, I need a site. Because I'm not actively going out to these companies and say, look, let me find you a site for you. But I could, I mean, the same thing, representing you guys, to say, we would like you to be able to consider our area in New York State, because you know where everybody is, and they are here in New York State producing this product. So let's go, let's get you up here to take a look. I think that's an easy list to accomplish. I don't know if they're ready, I would assume, Sam, that they are ready to expand,
Mhm.
because they're looking at this product line. If they are already behind the curve and saying, why aren't we making Greek yogurt, they gotta be out of their minds. This is the bandwagon they have to be on. Nobody who's in a consumer product sits on their hands very long.
Well, this is not a fad. This is
No.
something that Greek
Yeah.
yogurt is something that's gonna stay, something that,
Yeah.
obviously Europe is doing, and people, and it's funny, cause I have a daughter who's a triathlete, okay, and she needs high protein in her diet.
Yeah.
They use-
Low carbohydrate,
they eat a lot of this stuff.
Sure.
They athletes
High
eat a lot
protein.
of this stuff.
And it's much better for you than the other yogurts are, and I'm sure that it'll find its way into other food lines sooner or later. It probably is right now. So to answer your question, I don't have a hot list. I'm sure it
No,
could
but-
be
Yeah.
very quickly to find out, yeah, where is everybody looking?
Well, I guess, you know, like, investigating this process, whatever, and I'm glad Pat was here, John. It was very good to bring Pat in on board here, whatever, not to say that, I'm trying to hide anything for anybody, but I look at this, process, and, you know, how do we go about this whole process, and where okay, man, we get a stamp of approval, okay, from our board, and the Bridgeport Authority, we're gonna do the land, whatever, okay, it's like, okay, now what is the process? And that's our problem, because a lot of people here just know the nomenclature of how we do business in the North Country and how to recruit and stuff like that. There's nothing to say that our people aren't talented enough to do all those type of things, but, you know, like, what is the process to take us from A to Z with this whole
I will
idea?
tell you, it's no different than attracting any other company. It's just
Yeah.
that you have to be able to speak the language that they wanna hear, to be able to get them interested in a proposal from you, to say, a message has to, just like you've engaged us to do a report like this, you have to, and I'd like to help, to do a marketing campaign at some point that says, let's get this report out to as many of the people in this industry as there are.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to be able to, I'm gonna say, I've got something that I'd like you to look at. And that's as far as, and then I'm gonna say, if they, you know, I'll talk to you after you have a chance to read it. They read it, I'll get back to them and say, okay, look, I'd like you to be able to consider this seriously. Can we get you to St. Lawrence County to take a look? Or can we get you to talk to
All right, that's what I need to
OBPA
hear, yeah.
and
Okay.
find out what it is that you may have to, you offer? Because between what's the published incentive or the published rate and the real deal is happens at this table. So you don't say I'm giving land away for free. You say I'm selling land for $15,000 an acre. And when you get them here, you say I'm giving it to you for free.
Yeah, I can put a value on it.
Yeah, well, you have to.
Oh, sure.
I mean, it's in here. When I do this, what's called allocated, which is the line item in the financial statement, that's really debt service and depreciation, and that's on the total investment. So when I come up with a number, what I've looked at is the investment requirement of $100 million or whatever it is, what does that land cost? It's $600,000, what's the debt service on that land? So when you take that out, it reduces the whole cost by a little, and it just makes it a little bit sweeter for that company to say, yeah, I'm getting land for free, it's wonderful, I'll consider that very seriously. Now, tell me why I really need to be here. And you say, okay, these are the market areas that you need to say, I can get you across the border in 20 minutes through customs. I can do all these other things that you couldn't do in some other location. You can reach the 4 major market areas in Canada very quickly from here. We have a workforce that is incentivized and ready to go because we have so much dairy production. We know so much about dairy production. You know more about dairy production than any other county, whether you do at the moment or not. By the time that guy gets here, you will.
Wait, how would that work on they building on our land, taxable?
Well, I imagine it would head down the same road as what the Chatham facility was originally envisioned. In that case, there was going to be, the authority was going to give the land to Chatham in exchange for about 100 jobs. There would be a pilot agreement that would be structured through St. Lawrence County IDA and imposed upon the town of Lisbon. So
Did that increase and then went to taxes after? I'm trying to remember that because I was.
no, the IDA has broad powers to implement and negotiate and implement that deal. They don't need the approval of town of Lisbon, and they can basically just do it. It's generally a 10% phased into 100% over 10 years.
Yeah, 10 years.
That deal.
Okay, it was 10 or 20.
It's generally 10.
There's nothing you would have to build for them. They might come out and say, I want a new road. They might say, I want a warehouse. They might say that.
Mm-hmm.
And that may be something you might want to consider at some point. You wouldn't want to put up a warehouse for them because it could be, they might say, I want a refrigerated warehouse, and then they will say, I want a refrigerated or frozen warehouse. That's expensive.
Mm-hmm.
But they may say, I want a specific roadway.
Sure.
I want a 440 electric power line, or whatever, simple stuff. Whatever it is, you can do. And those kind of things you can write into the pilot because you got to get that back somehow.
And the majority of that we've already got. We've got the access road that goes to the site. We've got the
Sure.
water. We've got the sewer. The electricals right in close proximity.
Yeah, that's.
You know, we might need improved access to 37 coming by the correctional facility there from the access road.
No, I don't know at the moment, and I'm going to plead ignorance, and I'd love to be able to find that out before we've officially released this. Who pays the fuel on transporting the milk? I don't know if the yogurt does or the farmer does. If the manufacturer does or the farmer does. I don't know who
Farmers pay trucking to somewhere.
to somewhere.
So, yeah, the farmer's responsible for freight to somewhere. And whether it's a manufacturing facility, whether it's to a transfer station where, you know, the cooperative puts all the milk together in atoms, and then some of it goes to a contract with a yogurt firm in Buffalo, and some of it goes to Springfield, Massachusetts, but the farmer pays to that first location, whether it's a manufacturing plant or a transfer station.
Okay, well, obviously it's to his advantage to sell it here locally.
Yes, absolutely.
Then the manufacturer we talked about earlier has a longer haul with a heavier truck to get the yogurt out of here.
Mhm.
That's a problem too.
This is the takeaway on this. I think I'd like to have a chance to read it over in more detail. I think there's some edits and some improvements to be made.
Good.
And then I could talk with Bruce about marketing options. I've already got a list from Patrick, some of the companies that they work with in the North Lawrence Dairy, and I do have the database for Canadian companies. So we can talk about marketing options for a final product.
I think you need your own little St. Lawrence County Summit too, Farmers Summit. You could do that. Get them in here. Have lunch. You know? I'm sure some of them probably went to the governor's summit. Not all of them did, but I'm sure some of them did. But some of the small guys,
Yeah.
some of the Amish folks would probably love to hear from you. The other thing, one of the articles I read on the New York Times, it said that the farmers aren't making any more money from selling all this milk. And the question is why? Maybe because they're paying that transport cost.
The other thing that we should think about too is that large group of 20+ farms we occasionally invite to the port through, remember the Empire Farm Credit? I can't think what their name is now, but
Yeah.
And then you'll probably need a local Greek yogurt incentive of some kind. And then a training grant, some kind of equipment grant or something. May have to come up with some money somewhere just for this one industry. And that's how you tackle these industries. You have the state incentives, and then you got a local. Now, local might be that I'm giving you free land. That may be enough. They may want more, but I don't know. You may say that we're going to arrange to have your water outlet take care of, and that's no problem. Maybe it's streamlined permitting. We talked about this earlier. If it's on one of the port properties, your own agency, that in case, building permits and stuff can come right through you. So I don't know. I mean, it's going to be something that you have specifically to offer. You can't get anywhere else.
Well, the rail goes right up in there too, doesn't it, Wade?
Oh, where's that, Sam?
Goes right by the site, it doesn't.
It goes right
Oh, yeah, it goes right by the
So
site.
the rail's right there.
The ag
Rail's
district,
beautiful.
the
That's
ag
amazing.
district in St. Lawrence County is a gigantic funnel. Its narrowest point is Ogdensburg. It parallels the rail all the way to Norwood.
Yep.
So that's
there you
where
are.
You've got everything you need to
Wow,
do.
we got the
You just gotta
road,
get this
we got the
message
rail,
out.
the water, the sewer,
I think we could even get, cheap electricity through the RVRDA. Do they have that electricity yet?
Yeah, that'd be, yes, short answer,
Yeah.
yes. You
Yeah.
get some
Even
political
get-
arm twisting and
That you need
something.
to do. If you can come up with some competitive rates.
Well, it sounds like, it's a go-go here. I mean, and it does sound like a win-win, so, get the milk, get the farmers, produce the corn, all the type of thing, the trucking, infrastructure, all those type of things are in place. And you say, all right, where do we go next? So, I think, John, you're gonna work with Bruce on this? Is that the plan?
Yeah.
Yep.
Well,
And I think you have to just say, well, if it winds up being a 40-person operation, okay, fine. I mean, 40 or 50, we're looking at 130 jobs on this, but if it starts off at 40, fine, it's a win, because it's still gonna be a $60, $80 million investment one way or the other.
Well, yeah, but you're gonna produce, and the farmers,
Yeah.
it's the money that you're gonna, you're gonna circulate here, and that's
we
the
make a
whole
lot
thing.
of changes.
Sounds like a brand name you come up with, Sam. Go-Go. Go-Go Greek yogurt.
Go Greek. There you are, we got
Yeah,
it.
got that.
Yeah.
Sounds like a Greek name.
Yeah.
And, like Pat was saying, maybe you get a packager, because the benefit of why should you buy plastic cups from Canada when you can probably make them here cheaper? Maybe not, I don't know. I
Well,
set up paperboard boxes to put
That's one of
the
the
yogurt
things-
into boxes to go ship them.
The beer industry or the soda industry is the same thing. The can company builds a plant right next to them.
Yeah,
There's your polystyrene that comes in by rail. Pellets and made
Yeah.
into cups.
yeah.
Well, I'm not taking Steve's thunder here or whatever, but, anything else you wanna?
No, it's
Yeah.
just been an interesting discussion, I guess, we thought that at the beginning, so we don't know where it's gonna go. It may or may not lead to bigger and better things. Okay, so what do we need to do next is go on to the,
Well, we have the other report that we kind of stopped, because we
Yeah.
wanted to concentrate on this. You can see that a lot of the same thought process goes into
Right.
the international headquarters and logistics business. So, headquarters, my thinking, realistically, Canadian headquarters, wanting to come into the United States. Nothing that we've already not talked about already. At the same time, it's a two-headed thing. American companies trying to send their product north, the consumer product north market. When you have a Walmart's here, that is, yes, of course, there's Canadian Walmart's and everything else, but still, when there's so many people who are buying products here, bringing them back, or whatever it is, why not more of the same American product lines who are penetrating into the Canadian market, having a distribution facility from here? Especially if we can rail ship some of their product line. I don't know if we can put it on ships necessarily, but we have the rail capability. We have the truck capability, of course. But it's so much easier if we could bring a lot of heavy product or whatever the product is up here by rail. I mean, a large packaging capability.
So you're
Have a
starting,
distribution facility from here to go north.
you're just starting to work on that, you'll have a.
Yeah, I'll have something in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
We have some of that already done. We just kind of put that on hold so we can finish this up. This seemed to be the hot button at the moment. We want to make sure that this thing has to be, next few weeks, you gotta get this out the door. So I think we should set a schedule of some kind and say, what's the next piece of this? Obviously, you want to do some editing on here, and that's fine. But I think at some point, I'd like to start concentrating on working with John and Pat from ESD and getting that list of companies together and working with you on a marketing letter and a campaign to say, what do we need to do to get this message out to those people? And then have meetings and follow-up meetings and follow-up calls to say, let's talk about this a little bit more. What are your, for your company, tell me what you're trying to do. Maybe we have a better fit for something than you have considered already. And that's really that kind of conversation. Some of it's telephone, some of it's meeting, you know, it's back and forth. And then the idea is to sort, the question is it coming through you or does it go through Pat? I mean, it has, you're the client ultimately, but does it have to go through the county before it comes through you or not?
I don't think so.
No. As long as we keep them in the loop of what's going on, that's fine.
And they're not gonna try to steal the thunder away from you. Some of that they're gonna say, well, we've been working with these companies, they're quote ours, you know, that's our list. Does that happen or is everybody kind of friendly?
It's mostly friendly.
Okay. I ask because it happens in other locations I've worked at where there's a little territorial kind of.
Comes up
headline.
occasionally.
Well, it's always territorial. You know, I think, I haven't lived in a highly populated area, but I know in this area, you know, you even get the gamemanship from town to town regardless of what it is. Schools can't merge because you can't decide on the color of the basketball uniforms, you know, has nothing to do with their educational. Well, it's the same thing, I think, in all different things. Like you just said it yourself earlier. We need to do what we can't talk about in Messina, but well, it's that same nature exists, and I think Patrick was very, very good when he explained that they try to do that to the best of their ability, and I know John works closely with it. Okay, but what about the website? Because that's something that I've been quite interested in seeing. I think that will have a lot to do with promoting who we are.
Okay, well, I don't have your website up and running, but we have a little demonstration website. That we are working
Sam,
on.
that's your.
Is that how you got here?
Yeah, that was my sailboat. Okay, I think what we're trying to do is something a little crisper and a little bit more modern than you have right now, only because websites need to be refreshing from time to time. And I think that this kind of does it. It's a pretty standard format. I looked at a lot of other websites, including agencies, port agencies. But I think that that's something simple and easy that we can easily modify from time to time to work. There's not a lot of detail in here yet, but I'm just going to show you some things. What we'll have on the left navigation bar, these are all, will obviously all be clickable, and some of them are right now. And then across the top, we'll have key employers. We'll have our sites and buildings, which will be a database-driven, clickable thing, and we can update it with active rents or, you know, as things get changed over time. So we can show the buildings and we can show where they are and the rates and everything else. A quick facts area will summarize all the tables which are going to be involved in all of this kind of stuff. There will be a location map and of course a contact us page. So if we start over here with About Us, we're going to have, any of these pages will be similar. They'll have a big photograph of some kind. I would like to get a little better photograph than this of some kind. There's no written text here yet, but it'll just be about us, and there'll be a history of what's going on and a directory of some kind. And of course, Sam is up there. And I think it's nice to have if you board of directors or staff or everybody, if you would like. And then the big question is, do you want this to be clickable with an email link? Yes.
Well, let me back up.
Yeah.
By regulation, we have to have up on the main link somewhere, either public authority accountability or some
Okay.
such thing as that.
Yeah.
That displays all this information.
Okay. Can I get that? You don't really have that on the current website, right?
Yeah, it's under the bottom left of the list.
Okay.
You can see it all right there.
Okay.
That's all
those
example
things
of
that.
all the legal things that we have to put up there.
Okay, and
One of them's our org chart, our board of directors.
Okay, that all belongs here somewhere. So all that will be under About Us. And if you need it to be listed specifically on the left side navigation bar so you see it immediately, then we'll do that too.
Or, you know, I also think the About Us is an appropriate place for that as well. I mean, that will.
Okay. And the footer, what I'm thinking about over here on the footer, in general, and I saw this on a couple other sites, which is kind of nice, the entire site map is kind of listed across here. So everything that you would click on a navigation bar on the left-hand side, you can also find at the bottom. It's kind of an easy way to see a site. But right now, we're not. And some of that, for example, privacy policy, that could easily be the public accountability, repeated again there. So a lot of times things have to be repeated in places that are easy for navigation.
Well, I think the About Us would cover it as long as the content that's under the public authority accountability is under the About Us.
The logo up there,
Yeah.
who is that designed by?
I don't know.
It's about it's about
You could use some updating.
15 years old. It was designed by a lady out of Prescott.
It's a horrible.
Yeah.
It goes back a long ways.
Okay, I'm just wondering.
There's several logos that have been out,
Yeah,
and
you have it everywhere.
Yeah,
And if
you
you
go on
want to
our
redo
doors,
it, now's the
doors
time.
out here. The original logo for the authorities on our doors right out here. The glass doors that lead into the offices.
yeah.
Yeah.
There was one that was designed or redesigned under Dan Lockney that had the bridge, had the port, had the airport.
Yeah, which I think you need to say it all somehow in a logo. And if that main picture has to be, but you know, it's not a bad, good, you know, for just a splash page. I think it says a lot.
What's the city's logo? We got a ship, the bridge?
City's logo was,
I don't have internet capability, so I can't look it
The
up.
ship,
right now.
bridge?
No, it's a
yeah, they got a ship, bridge, and don't they have a horse or like a Remington? That
Maybe,
logo
maybe,
built
I'm
into
trying
it?
to think what it is.
I'm looking at here.
All these things on the left, everything
I
can be
only
changed.
mention that
Yeah.
for this. Look at that bridge right there. What do you notice? Look at the bridge. What's if you were artistically looking at that bridge, and I'm not much of an artist, well, what do you notice? You notice the pier on the right is taller than the pier on the left,
yeah.
which means you're looking at that bridge from the United States, correct?
Yeah.
Now look at the one we use for a logo.
Yeah.
And that's why I was wondering
Yeah.
if it was designed in the United States or Canada, because
No, it's a good
where is
point,
that
yeah.
person looking at that bridge? Not any big deal, but just the way my small mind works.
I think something like a strategic location might kind of be a nice way to summarize all of our advantages in one area. Again, this is quick and dirty, so I'm not sure exactly if that will keep that, but it's something I'm thinking about doing. That's not clickable yet. I haven't done anything. Any of these topics that we do, I think will be supported with data. So as you scroll down here on the bridge, there'll be some little description about the bridge, obviously a map. But it's important that we have tables in there that says this is, like, you know, the last few years, movement across the bridge, and this shows some increase, or it's a chart, or something easy that's very useful and quickly used. I mean, these are the current rates to go across the bridge. This is the volume. This has been our historical volume. So there's a little piece of information. That's done in a Microsoft Access database. That's the minute you change it, it goes up to the site, and so it's changed. So every 6 months or every month or whatever is necessary to do to keep it fresh, you just type on something and you upload it and boom, it's done. So anything about the bridge traffic, heavy lift, heavy load capabilities, all those things about the bridge and its connection to Canada and all the other kind of stuff. I think that's an important resource. So you do that. Go back to home. Again, the same idea with marine services, anything about the port. The Port of Ogdensburg. We have our lifts, and we're going to talk here about tariffs. We're going to talk about cargo movements through the port. We're going to talk about all the other kind of elements that come through here. Video, if there's a video, new photographs of some of the windmill cargo, if that's important to continually think. Any kind of current informational use about the port. And one of the things on your website right now, I have no idea what comes through your port. And there's no way of know what the volumes of anything that are coming through the port. So if I'm a cargo guy, and I'm a shipper, I have no idea what your capabilities are. So I need to know that. All this has to do with site selection. It says I need to know something about the OBPA and what their capabilities are. So if I'm going to move something through this port, I'd love to know what the drafts, what the cargo, the berth side drafts is, what berth length, well, some of the stuff you do have, but I also wanna know what my costs and what my market opportunities are gonna be. I wanna know that the Port of Ogdensburg is the closest to the only seaway port, and the closest seaway port to the Atlantic, but the only US port on the seaway. I wanna know those things.
The question I remember a friend of mine who was Mark and whatever is how you get on the list. In other words, if I Googled ports,
Yeah.
right,
You come up now.
on the St. Lawrence River.
Yeah,
Ports
Ogdensburg
and
comes
St.
up. Port of Ogdensburg comes
But
up.
what I'm saying is, where you are in the list,
Yes,
if you're on
important.
page 6,
No, you want
nobody's gonna get you.
It's called search engine optimization,
Right.
SEO, so you pay one of these guys. As soon as we have this up and running, we'll call the guys who do it and say, what do we need to be on the top of that list?
Right.
And what it is that in the code, and whenever you do a website. This is the code behind the website. So somewhere up here on the top, see this thing says meta right there?
Yeah.
In there, that's one of the things that the search engines look for immediately. And in there is a big description, a lot of words are usually placed about cargo, ships, movements, Ogdensburg, state of New York, Port of St. Lawrence, St. Lawrence Seaway. So these are keywords that the internet uses, Google uses to find anything. Those guys are expert in knowing what those order of words have to be and where on that meta list. As soon as you put the right thing in the right place, Google, the brilliant science behind all this, understands how to find you very quickly because of sort of a repetitive search methodology.
Mhm.
So those things are not hard to do, but there are a couple of specialists. We've got to give them a call to find out exactly. Once we're done, we need to know what it is we need to do to make sure that cargo movements, for example,
Mhm.
grain movements, whatever, always come up. So when a specialist is saying, I want a port that can handle my windmills, you're up number 1. You're not on page 10, you're on number 1. Those are the little things that have to be
Yeah.
done.
Good.
And that's a technical thing that can be done behind it. It's easy to get going.
For comparative purposes, I just put that in, we're at the almost bottom of page 7, and it's our 1983 tariff.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, that
Page
information.
7?
Page 7 in the Google searches.
Yeah.
And would you search?
Port on St. Lawrence River.
Yeah.
And we're on page 7?
We're on page 7, and what you would get would be our 1983 tariff,
Yeah.
the PDF
Yeah.
document.
What good is that?
That tells them the cost.
That tells them
Yeah.
nothing. That tells you that you don't give a damn. And I hate to say it,
Yeah,
but that's what it
true.
says.
That's exactly correct.
And you
That's
can't
the
let
perception
that
I would
happen. All right, so then air services, same kind of thing. We're gonna talk about the airport. And we'll have obviously links to Cape Air, and we're gonna show the circulation of where the airline goes.
I like this.
And then I also think what we need to do with that is say, these are the relative costs of visiting places, maybe, if you wanted to get from here to Ogden, to Ottawa, et cetera. But I'd also like to say, future, if you can, service planning includes, whether it does or not, it's
And we're
irrelevant.
We are.
Montreal,
Yeah.
Buffalo, Westchester. I'd love you to say that. There's no reason, for me to get, I never fly here. I can't get here. For me to fly here from Newark, I've got to fly to Philadelphia, or I've got to fly to Boston to get on
Boston.
2 of these airplanes.
Yeah.
To fly from Boston to Albany, to fly from Albany to here. I'll be flying, it'll take me all day to get here, and I'd rather drive.
Drive up to Albany.
If I could drive to Albany and
Take a
hop a
train
flight,
home.
but once I'm in the car for 2 or 3 hours, it's a difference. But I think an executive needs to know that they can get here from somewhere. So any smaller community has to have superior air service to sort of come up anywhere. I don't think there's any problem with Cape Air, but unless you lengthen your runways and got some jets in here, which I don't have to tell you about, but that's something that you need to think about in the future.
Sound familiar?
Sounds familiar.
Okay?
Bruce, are you hiring a professional designer to do this? I mean, I was looking for something more flashy than, this seemed pretty basic right here.
It is
as far
pretty
as-
basic,
far
but I
as-
think we're going to get there.
Okay.
Okay. Again, I want to get the technical data out of the way first. I mean, I don't mind this staying a little simple in what in its framework. I don't mind being flashy and more graphic and everything else. But do you think it needs to be fancier than this?
I do.
Okay. Well, I don't mind changing it. If the basic idea is too simple and we want to go to something with
I was thinking
rotating images.
Flashing images up at the top with all the different facilities and,
One of the things we were thinking about doing right away is doing that. The only problem with that, and I'll try it, when you actually print it, you don't get any images when you actually print the thing. But I don't mind having a rotating image header of some kind, or just the whole page that's rotating images, because that seems to be a current philosophy about web design.
We got pictures of the cranes? Any
Yeah.
pictures of the cranes,
yes.
that's important.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Again, rail services, and we're going to talk here a little bit about the railroad. Again, cargo movements, the connections through to CSX. Whether or not this is still Vermont Rail, I mean, do we mention that company, or we just hold this to NYOC? Those are the technical issues we'll have to get through. And then we're going to have news releases. I think it's important that you have press releases that are easily accessible. Also, I'm not sure what we're going to do with these related links kind of thing at the moment. Certainly all the links and contact information anybody else would need to have, will have. And then, of course, any of the pages that we have will be immediately translated into French. So we have already started with French translation. And so you can see we'll be done with this. So to start, and if the framework bothers you, then we'll come up with something new. But I don't mind having rotating images and better graphics. So that's a flashier thing that I'd like to do. I think we'll spend a little bit more time doing that. But we wanted to come up with something at least I think was workable.
Just be
Whose
careful,
job
don't get
description?
beyond what you can maintain.
Yeah,
because that's
You just
the-
took the words out of my mouth. How are you gonna maintain this?
Well, generally, your banners up across the top that change, those will be consistent.
Yeah, those are enough. That's just a script that's written.
Yeah.
So you'd have the series of images. They have to be sized like they are. And John, if I'm stuck here for a day with my car being fixed, maybe I'll call the office and maybe we can upload something right away. But I don't think it's gonna be done that quickly. But that banner could easily, it could be a larger banner, but certainly it could be an image script that will flash across there. I don't think having words that kind of scream across or any of that kind of nonsense makes any sense. I think it cheapens the image. But certainly, if we took this one image, for example, on the home page, this big bridge picture, and if this was the slowly rotating all through the images, I think that would work. Because as the splash page, just showing the bridge doesn't do it. Isn't enough to convey.
No,
the
if the banner at the top showed the bridge and then it phased out and then it showed
Yeah,
the
the
port
port,
and then it
yep.
phased out, showed the airport
Yep.
and NYOG, I think that you'd be getting somewhere.
Okay. Originally I thought that might be a good way to do it. We'll do. Okay, fitting. Well, not bad for first month. Right now we don't. What we'll do is we'll create on our server. Right now it's just on this laptop, but we'll do a. I guess we'll make up a name, OBPA something, and then we'll register with register.com for a little while, so that only you guys will see this site until it's ready to be published. I'll give you the URL, whatever it's.
The other site's active and this one.
Yeah, your site will stay active, but you'll have a web address. Right now you don't because it's just here. But we'll host it on our server, and then you'll have the web address. I'll tell you what it is when I get back to the office in a couple of days. And you'll see this immediately, and every time it's changed, I'll let you know that we've done some more work to it. And the first thing is we'll start this banner, and we'll try to do something with the banner. Okay. And if you want to do some logo, if you want to get a shot on this, redesign on a logo, I'd love to do that, because it's kind of old looking, and it should be a little bit more up to date. I don't want it insult your graphics guys, but it's, you have it everywhere, but maybe it's time to update the image a little bit. What to think about a good logo. And that's where we are. There's a full search here, so it's not active yet, but it'll have capability of searching everywhere on the site. And when we get back again to this quick facts, that'll be a summary of any of the data points that we have in the various pages. So very quickly, the site selector can say everything equally, a brief summary of the information that we're going to post. And that will be, as we link that to Access, that'll also link back up to there, because that'll be a summary from Access. So it'll be easy enough to do. From time to time, you'll get on your computer, you bring up Microsoft Access, and you'll just make the change on the table, or Excel. You can actually do it in Excel, and that'll link that directly to Access. And then there's an easy way to publish that right back up to the web. Or it's easy enough if Westel, what was it, Westel?
Westel.com?
Yeah.
We're
If they're gonna host, then they're probably a SQL, or maybe there's an Access page, and you just log on right away, and then up comes the Microsoft Access. You'll be able to make your table change right away, and boom, it'll be active.
Yeah, we'll probably host a new one on Time Warner, just to get away from some of the Westel.com
Okay.
issues.
Okay. So it's our first shot at this. I'm pleased with it in the sense that I think it's going to say what we need to say, and then we can make it a little bit more impressive as we go. Okay. And that's that. All right, my next job is to get the draft of the other report out as fast as possible. You're going to go through edits on here.
Yep.
And then we'll start developing a list of contacts, which I think is important initially. But the big question is how do we follow them up, and how do we get them? Once I give them to you, and we make the initial conversations with them, and hand them off to you, and you got to go up here. Okay?
Well, I think we need to develop a strategy about,
Yeah. What to do with them once they show up?
well, even before that, in terms of how are we gonna present the report? What's our strategy gonna be there in terms of, maybe a joint letter between the county and us, and, direct mail and qualifying interested parties, and, seeing the level of interest that way. There's also a consultant that the county has that they use for recruiting the company, the North Lawrence Dairy, that we can reach out with, as well as the Empire State Development contact, so it'd be a variety of things.
How about this meeting of the farmers, getting them together, the dairy producers?
I don't know if that works all right. Brad, do you have an answer to that?
Well, I think Farm Bureau has a lot to do with Dairy Farmers Organization.
We know how to find them, between the Farm Bureau and the Empire Farm Credit folks,
Yeah.
who are dealing with a large farm.
Cooperative Extension.
Well, yeah,
If you were interested in, maybe we could talk to the marketing guy, Giovanni, and get a tour on that. I mean, I don't know if it'd be of interest. That's something I was thinking about doing. Maybe if we could work through initially the governor's office. Because if I just call them, they're going to say no. But if we work through the governor's office and say, could you set something up for us? They might do it. I don't know what advantage that Giovanni would have to them, but if they,
Make the request.
yeah, you want to do it? I think that'd be a great tour.
Would you go through Patty Ritchie's office, or how would you do
No,
that?
go right through the governor's office.
Right through the governor's office?
On
Okay.
this, because, again, nothing against the senator or assembly
No,
person.
nobody there.
They'd definitely be helpful, but the one driving the ship in terms of promoting Greek yogurt is the governor's office.
Yeah,
Office you can report to,
Exactly.
yeah, that'd be a super tour. I think I'd be happy to do it.
Very good. Anything else on that before we move on to other marketing efforts?
Just a thought. If you bypass Patty Ritchie and go directly to the governor's office, are you going to create some sort of so-called hard feelings that why would I be bypassed? And not as
Absolutely
a
not.
local representative not included in this?
Because we'll include them in the tour. That's how we've dealt with that in the past when we reach out to various
All right,
agencies.
good.
That way nobody gets.
I mean, there's no question you're
Feelings hurt.
supportive of this effort.
Yeah.
I don't see any question
Right.
anybody being supportive of this
But
effort.
it could be Fahey too, it doesn't have to be Chobani necessarily. I mean, Fahey's in Johnstown, they're up and running, and they're expanding, but they have a big operation, so if it isn't Chobani, it could be the other guy too.
Okay.
Just as much to learn from
Oh.
them.
I'll make the request.
Thank you.
Bruce?
Am I done?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Actually not,
No.
so.
Okay.
But I may ask the camera to go off because there may be, something, a personnel matter that I'd like to discuss and no decision would come out of it.
Okay.
Is that allowable in this committee?
You're putting me on the spot, and the answer to that question would be no, it is not executive session material, because the reason for executive session, if you were talking about matters leading to appointment of a particular person,
Okay.
that is executive session
All
material.
right.
But to add a new position in a general area,
Okay, well, I was
That
just
is not-
sensitive, I'd asked the question of Bruce and anybody that, something that we are doing internally as far as, position, whatever. I mean, it's nothing to hide, obviously, we're looking at marking, whatever, maybe we can have open discussion about that. Is that okay? Is that what?
not for executive session, for
Well,
open
no,
discussion,
open
sure.
session's fine.
Right,
I mean, I just didn't know if I wanted to go into executive session to ask the question, whatever it wanna be, so. So let's keep the dialogue open.
Okay.
Bruce, my question is this, in our organizational component, we're looking at adding another position, okay? And looking at, we've looked at the bean counting side, the accounting side, whatever, and looking at the revenue side and how we can generate revenue. And obviously, where you come in along the way is exactly hiring your organization, okay, your consulting business, okay, to take us in the marketing aspect, to work with John,
Right.
different responsibility with John, and then adding another person, okay, that we're to our component. And we're looking at somebody who is also a bean counter and also somebody who's a marketing thing. So it's really diversified, whatever. Give us some advice in regard to that. I mean, Fred has an issue in his part of the accounting part of, our business kind of picked up a little bit. We had a little spike and it put a huge demand on our organization. Huge demand, okay? So now we're looking at, what we wanna do next and how to do that. What would you advise us, or what's your take on something in regards to that? We may be unique that, for what we're asking for. What do you think, Fred? Am I asking the question correctly?
Yeah, and I think the other part is the continually growing demands for, from the state for, reporting requirements, yeah, and compliance issues. We spend an awful lot of time complying with MWBE, capital, 10-year capital plans and things like that. That are a growing part of the needs coming from accounting. So those are along with having additional business, those are.
That's one of the things that's really driving the, one of the bottlenecks is, as far as the value-added business activities. Those are second on your list now,
Right.
over all these regulatory reporting things that have come out in the last 9 months to a year timeframe. And that's a problem because the demands are getting more significant, not less, in that particular area. But
Is it a sustainability issue, or is it regulatory reporting?
Yeah.
What does this person need to do? I mean, is it a one-person thing, or is it two part-time people doing this?
Well, it may be not part-time, it may end up being two people. I mean, I don't wanna say that we're gonna spend that kind of money, but it may be somebody, and I don't wanna steal all Fred's thunder, whatever, is obviously somebody in the accounting department, okay? If something happened to Fred, we need somebody who has an expertise to pick up the financial type of requirements that are obligated. The other part of the component is, we looked at the grants and type of things that are out there that were, I'm not trying to take it away from John, but I mean, it's like somebody who can really specialize on some of those type of things so John can do where he's an expert at, whatever. And maybe John's more of an expert than the grant writer than the grant writer we get. So, I mean, so it really is to expand and give John the capability factor and time-wise to do the things that he needs to do at that point in time, whatever. So it's kind of like a luxury in a way,
Right.
but it's also an investment to say, you know what, we need to do more, you know, and that's where this whole thing is all involved here.
Yeah, it's
And-
almost
and
like
the- and
you
the
need an
success-
economic development
Right.
administrator.
Well, yeah,
in a way.
this committee's part of it, this marketing committee, you're involved in it now directly, and it's like, okay, how do we get this wheel to roll? And it's like, we're in the baby stages of what we're doing.
And with grants, the
Yeah.
research, the development of a grant, and the success in having a grant awarded is all big, but then there's grant administration.
Yeah, it is, I know that.
Yeah.
I'd love to say that we are, grant experts, we are not. It's
No,
something
but
I'd
I'm
love to
just
know
saying
more
is-
about. But there are needs, there are grant administrators that, and all they do administer is community development, block grants, or things like that. It's a heck of a lot of paperwork, I mean, it really is.
Well, and your perspectives of what you gave us,
Yeah.
you know, what we're doing, how we're doing, that to us was, you know, part of our approach is to looking at how we're doing business and the way we're doing it.
Right.
And it's like, what I guess I'm asking you is, you know, I think it's the right thing you'd say, listen, do what you're gonna do, you know, and get somebody who is, you know, gonna help you with the accounting side, whatever,
Yeah.
and somebody who is gonna do a little bit more of the marketing, grant writing type of, you know.
Yeah, but they have to have that experience with it.
Oh,
It
yeah,
should
I
be
mean,
well, where
we're,
you work for an ED agency of some kind.
Right, you don't want somebody learning on the job.
no, we got, you know,
No.
it's like, okay, we're creating a job, or maybe even two, I mean,
Yeah.
the
No,
money
but
that we can.
an economic development, grants administrator, that's all they do. They do the accounting work all the time. And they're writing and making, and they know where the new grants are gonna be coming from, theoretically. Or they know they can do the research and follow what's involved in filing these damn things. I know your city, I forget the girl over there who's working with the planning, the pro-town planning area. They're going after the BOA thing from the ESD, and that's a lot of paperwork. I mean, that's to do,
Andrew Smith, yeah.
you know, Andrew Smith, that's it.
Yeah.
That kind of person that does that kind of research, a planner by training, with what's the credential from IEDC, with an economic development credential of some kind, who can say I could get a job in an economic development agency. That's their bailiwick. That's the kind of business they do
Yeah.
all day long.
Mm-hmm.
They administer a grant, they do the research, they do the accounting, they do the filing, they approve loans. You know, when someone comes in and says, I need financing, how do I get it? That's all they do. So you need an economic development specialist.
Okay.
They're out there, but you have to get one that's had some time, maybe through ESD or maybe one of the other agencies of some kind, but put a job, a resume, a request out there, and see if you can get an economic development administrator. There's a lot of them out there who are thinking that they'd love to come up and have a full-time job and a couple of staff people. You may not have that luxury for them right now, but you go through IEDC if you have to, and just post a job that or actually, you know what? Actually call them. Call Steve Finkel's office in Washington. Are you active in IEDC at all? International
I don't
Economic
know.
Development
No.
Council? Find them, talk to Steve Finkel, tell him I sent you.
Got that? Yeah?
Or I'll
I
give
know
you the
Steve,
telephone
Oh,
number.
do you really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, excellent.
And talk to them and say, look, this is our conundrum. This is what I need to do to expand our agency. What can you tell me I need to help with?
Mhm.
If you want to, you go through LinkedIn and on their site and say, this is exactly our problem. You're gonna get a hell of a lot of resumes.
I don't think we need an economic development specialist. I mean, I've been doing economic development
Yeah, I know you have.
for 20 years. What we
I
need
don't wanna
is,
take anything away from what you're
what
doing.
we need is somebody underneath me to assist me with grant writing and economic development and
Yeah.
marketing and that.
Yeah.
Well, I think as a whole, that's a decision that we need to take to the board and get the board input on and guidance on. And
Can you get any
ultimately,
students out of
that's
it?
where
I mean,
we'll
you can
go.
get some interns to start you with from college.
Well,
If they're worth anything.
I think you need someone with experience and background, but,
I agree.
yeah.
Yeah, I would be careful. I mean, try to get somebody who can say they've already done it. But maybe some other area of the state that, we'll relocate here if you have to. A job's a job. People
Yeah,
know what
sure.
jobs.
Well, I guess I don't say I wanted your stamp of approval, I want some of your ideas that you share with us to think about, you know, obviously you guys are on the same page, so I didn't really,
Yeah.
so that's good, that's good.
Well, it's a specialty. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of stuff out there that it's getting a little more complicated as we go. But as we push more and more for this, that person will get busier and busier because there'll be areas to research. I mean, they're not gonna just be spending their time on filling out paperwork. You wanna make this
Yeah.
a reasonably flexible position that they can support marketing too, right?
More
Yeah.
beans.
Yeah, more beans, well, we just go with, you know, capital investment plan, whatever, so it's like how does it all tie in, what you're gonna invest in, what you're gonna buy.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you don't buy the right things and you're marking something else that's different than what you're investing in, you missed your target. You know, so, I don't have any other questions, Steve, you do, or?
No,
what's your committee? I mean, so-
I'm good on that. I have my very firm, strong opinions on where we should go, so,
Yeah,
but it was good to hear that it kind of matched them.
yeah,
Anything else for any general business we want to talk about?
no?
Just other marketing efforts, Patrick talked about the NEBS event there, that was mostly exporters, they were smaller companies looking to export, not necessarily set up, but there were a few leads through that, and I've already been to Ottawa, met with a couple of companies, out of that event. The Messina event, made a few contacts there as well. We talked about drum country business, and I had met with, forget her name now. At, Dank,
Oh,
Michelle Capone,
Michelle, yes.
and found that our available sites and buildings were not on drum country business, which really surprised me, and they weren't on National Grid either, so they're on both of those now, so it's good to have those in the database.
Excellent.
The Montreal Gazette advertising started last Tuesday, and I did that email blast to Feed and Grade magazine subscribers with it's relatively inexpensive, but has not resulted in any responses as of yet. So
I went on the Montreal Gazette, and how do we find us on that?
they're
I mean, I put OBPA up above,
they're impressions, so it's hit or miss. If you go on one time, it may be one ad. If you go on again, it may be another ad. If you go to the business section, you might catch it, but they're impressions and they're only on at certain points in
okay,
time.
so if I was gonna question it, and, you know, to find it, what would I type in up above?
I guess you could try typing in Ogdensburg, see if the ad comes up that way, but they are impressions. They flash in and out depending on who's doing the advertising. So at any given point in time that you go to it, it may not be there. If you go back later, it may be our ad, because it's gonna vary. If you go to the business section, it may be under
Well, I'm just
there.
trying to think of what our marketing approach is, so if I itemize something, export or import, would Augsburg come up?
I don't know. You can
I
try.
mean, I don't know if you're, I mean, I'm just
Can you
asking a
call
question.
the advertiser, ask him to send you the specific link of where that is housed, so that we can see right on the
Sure.
website?
Yeah, I
That
mean,
ad is
so I
out
mean,
there as
if
a
I'm somebody
location.
looking for something, and we're
Yeah.
trying to go into Montreal market, you know, to whatever, see where we wanna go, and I think it goes into Three Rivers, I'm not sure exactly what other ports, or Quebec City may get part of the, you know, whatever, but what we got, $10,000 invested in that,
Yes.
you know, so,
Are they giving you reports on the number of hits or how many impressions
Monthly,
you get?
yes. Monthly there.
yeah, so this is a real tester for us, to see, you know, did you want to throw $10,000 out the door?
No,
But,
I
I
do
mean,
it.
sometimes you ask yourself, I gotta invest $10,000 to find out exactly, it's a waste of my time to do something
Yes.
that doesn't make any sense to go after, so I mean,
Yeah, well, advertising is becoming such a big part of everybody's budget right now, it's getting ridiculous. And print ads were supposed to be giving way to all this cheap internet advertising. And the internet advertising is starting to get prohibitive. They really are. They're not stupid, they know that you're gonna spend that money.
yeah,
I advertise all the time, and for a little guy like me, it's killing me. It's just, you can't do things through email. You have to continue to send hard copy letters and print brochures, because it still has to get out. tactile, it's gonna be in front of someone's desk. But you have to concentrate on every media outlet there is, and it just, again, what you're just talking about, that taxes your strength so much. All the time that it takes to just get a print ad out, now you gotta do an internet ad, now you have to do maybe a radio ad, maybe do TV spot stuff. Speaking of which, you should be on local television, you should be doing some kind of, once in a while, a spot from Ogdensburg, from the port, something like that, some public access somewhere. Those kinds of things take time and time and time and time and time. Your staff people, this person, is gonna wind up being 3 or 4 people by the time you're done. And they're gonna have different assignments. So they're gonna have to be very sharp and very smart people, and you're gonna have to get them early while they're young, and work the hell out of them. Burn them out.
Yeah.
I covered everything on the agenda.
Okay, any other comments?
No,
Any short questions, ideas? Well,
When was the last time you had the TV guys up here doing anything from Watertown?
Would have been on the wind turbine project,
Okay.
stock photo announcing the project, port access road, probably 3-4 months ago.
We got a national hit from Ottawa
did, yeah.
on the airport.
Oh, that's right, on the airport.
On the airport, they come over and said, wow, if you want cheaper fares, you come to the United States.
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
What, for airport costs themselves of bringing an airplane up?
no, actually, we have
Passenger
passenger service, so when people are coming over here, I'm not sure what the percentage is, it 40%?
No, it varies, it was 22% last month.
22%?
It was 29%, I think,
You know,
in
so,
June and July.
you know, we're not a huge air traffic, we
Yeah.
only have, what, 6,000?
6,000.
It's about a quarter
Yeah.
of passengers are Canadians
Yeah.
flying down.
When I was looking at the research, a lot of guys from Ontario, they're still driving to Syracuse to fly.
Yeah.
But you can't compete with Syracuse, obviously, so that's not
Well,
gonna
they're
change.
getting on here, and it's like, you don't have to, go very far, gas to go to, and back and forth,
$129 round trip to Boston.
I know, that's great. I wish it was $129 round trip to Westchester Airport, or someplace like that.
yeah.
Good.
Well, we're looking at the whole thing, we're looking at everything that we're doing, how we're doing it, and, and our staff is up to the task. I mean, I think everybody's here is energetic to, do, big business.
What's the, I can interject, what is the future of the airport?
Well, that's debatable.
Very good question.
That's a very, I mean, it's
Depends on who
interesting,
you
because
talk
I,
with.
funny, I looked in my pocket, there's some notes I had, we had a meeting with the Watertown Airport, Saranac Lake and
Yeah.
Messina,
Yeah,
and,
right.
look at, where we're all going, and we're all losing money, we're all
Yeah.
trying to see where we can go. We all realize here at Ogdensburg, we do need what you said, we need a longer runway. We all would like a bigger plane, because we're trying to justify our service here. And obviously, it's Messina and Ogdensburg are about the same equally, and the type of service that we have, and it's like, nobody's trying to lose their airport service. We're trying to justify, where we want to be in the future. And our future
Yeah.
is, we really believe Ogdensburg is a great place to fly out, so.
Well, if what's the Skyline, what's the new roadway that they're planning, the new interstate, if it ever happens?
Oh,
I-98.
I-98.
Whatever the name of that.
Well, I think it's, Northway or Skyway or
Northway,
something,
Skyway.
I don't know what the name you
Yeah.
originally went with, but, I mean, there's a lot with that too. I mean, it's like, it's interesting because an idea takes a long time
Yeah.
and a lot of money to build this road. And Wade and I, we go back and forth, if we had cranes in the port, and we gotta
Right.
invest, okay, then we can have a container business.
Yes, I know.
And it's like, okay, and so we really believe in the North Country, we have a transportation network across the northern part of New York State,
Right.
Obviously, businesses, will come in, so you gotta say, is it gonna happen? Nobody's giving up that,
But that's a big,
eventually it
big
will
deal.
happen, I think, not sure when, but,
Well, it's easier to promote more air traffic than it is to build that damn road, I mean, that's for sure. It'd be great to have the highway,
yeah,
but if you could figure out a way to get more passenger use of that airport.
Yeah. Well, one of the plans way back when, and actually with 416, when it goes up to Ottawa, it was, the plan really was to have I-80 or I-81 connect, spur over to our bridge and also
Oh.
to Messina Bridge,
Right.
okay? Because that was the, transportation network to tie
Right.
into Canada, but, I mean, our goal is, we'd love to have a 4-lane highway come to our bridge. We would
I
absolutely
really
love.
think so.
Yeah, that would be a huge
Yeah.
investment
Be a game changer.
for St. Lawrence County as much as it is
course.
for Ogdensburg.
Yeah.
So, well, I don't have any more to add. Just, I really appreciate your efforts, Bruce, and
Well,
John,
we're-
the same,
we're in
putting
the
this
middle of
meeting
it.
together for us. It really is, it's important that we stay on top of this and keep working it forward. Fruits of our labor, maybe it'll take a couple, 2 or 3 years, who knows how long it takes to get there, but we're not gonna just dialogue it, we're gonna work it.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, then,
Make a
Mr.
motion.
for a motion to adjourn, and since you and I are the only voting members.
Well, I'll make a motion, and you'll second it, and,
Thank you.
thanks again.